All right. So
we're in different chairs this week.
Yeah, we're on opposite sides of the microphone.
Yes. I should have prepared better.
It's just supposed to be a conversation. You're not supposed to prepare for a conversation.
Okay. That sounds good to me.
Casual. I mean, I have to be prepared, but that's because I'm owning this.
Yes.
No, what's new? What's
new?
What's new? So casual.
So cash.
Yeah, I don't know. What are you doing recently? That stimulates you.
That stimulates me? Well, I'm liking this new squad I'm on. It's always good to dig into new stuff. So yeah, the review stuff is we're rolling. We're in beta. That's maybe something to talk about.
Betas.
Yes, betas and
the whole conversation, like the test talk.
Yeah.
And or even test talks, because I'm curious how many companies have like their QA like set up their own talks and conversations about different topics.
I'm willing to bet
it's a rarity.
Yeah, I mean with that format, I think.
Before I forget.
Yeah, write it down. Yeah, I think those specific things, like the last round of what we were doing, they were interesting. I don't know how long we can sustain those types of talks.
Well, my estimate was probably 1 to 2 more rounds, and then I think people are going to be like,
yeah,
I don't got anything.
Right, exactly. But they were actually interesting because I think it got people thinking about what they wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Which individually I think helps people to sort of wrap their brains around a topic enough so that they could lead a conversation.
Yeah.
Right, you need to know enough about what you're talking about to lead a conversation. But I think the ones that were the most successful were the ones that were also presented in a way that they were looking for like other ways or other methods to do things. And that, if it's presented that way, it becomes a conversation and not so much of like a presentation.
Yeah.
And I think those, for me at least, are more interesting.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm more interested in like the conversational aspects.
Yeah.
Of those talks than just somebody presenting a thing.
Right. Yeah, because you can learn, but it's also good to when you're having a conversation about something, you can learn from other people. But if you're talking through things, at least I know for me, if I'm talking through things for myself, it helps me because I have to prepare for it. And I've got to like think about why I approach things the way I do instead of just approaching them.
Right.
But it also gets me to talking out loud, talking ideas out loud, helps me to like realize if they make sense or not.
Right.
You know, there's something in my head that you have an idea of how to approach something in your head, and then you start talking about it. You find new details, or somebody has some other risks that they bring up,
Yeah.
or things that you didn't consider, or even sometimes I have this really great idea, and then I start talking about it for real with real life words, and it doesn't really work.
Yeah, I've definitely had my encounters with that. Somebody was talking about I don't remember who said it, but like somebody here was mentioning about something about a duck.
A duck?
Like having like a duck, like a little like plastic duck to talk to.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
For those reasons of like having something to like talk at, to get you thinking about like what you're saying, how you're saying it, and then that leading to you like figuring out, oh, you know, this is how I should approach that problem. Or and I've definitely encountered that. I don't think I could actually talk.
I don't know if I could talk to
plastic duck. I'd be much more interested in actually talking to a person.
Yeah. Yes.
Even if it's just talking at a person, at least then it actually feels like I'm engaging with something that's not an inanimate object.
Yes. But that takes a level of confidence or vulnerability in order to do that. It's kind of hard.
Yeah.
Even if you're talking just at somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you've got to give up a little bit.
Yes, you
to be able to share thoughts and or ideas that may or may not be complete with another person.
Yeah.
So
you need to trust them too.
Yeah.
That's like if you don't trust that they're going to be open to just listening, then it's kind of hard to share.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's another thing to explore.
Sharing?
Trust.
How do we build trust?
How do you build trust? And how do you... Okay, and there's different contexts of trust. So you come into a team, you change squads. So we're going to be changing squads soon.
Okay.
How do you go about building trust within the team, so that I don't know. Yeah, I'll ask that. How do you go about building trust within the team so that you can do your work and you can ask them, the rest of the team, to get you what you need to do that work.
I don't know how that trust is created. I know how it's not created, but I don't know how it is created.
Yeah.
Because there have been lots of times where I've been, I mean, on a day-to-day, just in your life, there's so much trust that you're giving into other people that they're going to do the right things.
Right.
Just generally. I mean, it's kind of... maybe trust isn't... I mean, you are putting trust and or faith and or whatever word you want to use for it
Yeah.
into other people and or other ideas of things that reinforced that, you know, willing to trust people. But at work, like, I don't know what specifically I do that builds the trust outside of, I mean, the only thing I can think of is, like, if we all have the same idea of what our goal is, and the request I make to another person for a particular thing that I need to accomplish that goal is also then understood by that person as a thing to accomplish that goal, then they're more willing to provide whatever that thing is. And then I guess as you do that enough, it's something that eventually you just don't think about anymore. And or maybe never thought about it in the first place. Because you don't typically have to think about it unless you're actively trying to get somebody to trust you.
Right. Yeah, it's not like a specific goal with exit criteria.
Right.
It's just kind of...
Yeah, I would say a lot of the times it just happens because you're all supposedly working towards the same goal. So there's... What is that? What is the word? I can't think of what the word is. But yeah, you're trusting each other. You're all trying to get this product out, and you all understand that you each perform a role. So understanding what that role is, and or maybe even not understanding what that role is, but understanding that they know what that role is, and saying, I know you know what you're supposed to be doing, so you're going to do that. If you ask something from me, ideally you would first assume that the thing that they're requesting is for that common goal until it isn't. Like, you have to, unless you have a hard time just trusting people, like, your first assumptions should always ideally be that you're all working towards a common goal instead of, you know, how does this help me? Like that. I think that's probably where a lot of those issues come up, is everyone having different ideas of what that goal is and or how to reach that goal. So when you ask for something that doesn't align with what their idea is where things break down.
I like that a lot.
I mean, it's
working towards
human
a common
psychology.
Goal.
So whether it's at a workplace or anywhere else, you're gonna. It's all based on what's your perception versus my perception, and how much or how different do they, or how much do they align, or how much do they not? Because that's where most conflicts happen.
Interesting. I think also maybe success is also, like, if you're talking about that, and this probably you need that common goal, right? If the more success you have with reaching those common goals, I think the more you're going to trust each other also. yeah, I think that if you get to a point where you can believe that the people you're working with in any context have a similar end goal, then that's where a lot of the trust comes from.
Yeah, and I mean that's something that it feels like we have here is like when I first started, I don't think I ever really actively thought about how do I get people to trust me.
Yeah.
I just did what I thought I was supposed to do, and eventually that just turned into trust.
Yeah. Is there a different kind of trust? So, and I don't know why this popped in my head. We were talking about test talks and presenting and discussing and bringing ideas. Like that's a totally different context than like working within a cross-functional team, doing like your work. Is it like a different kind of trust that you need to like bring forth ideas to a test talk?
I don't think trust is required to bring up ideas. But if you are wanting those ideas to go anywhere, then, or it's only until you have to like seek out either help or something from others is where trust then starts to be a resource.
Yeah.
But like to bring up an idea to some talk, I would say that's probably more of just a vulnerability. Like you, like, I mean, as we said a little bit ago, like you have to be willing to be vulnerable to bring up an idea to talk about. Because the thing you're bringing up could either be, you know, something everybody agrees with or something nobody agrees with, or some level in
or
between
somewhere
that.
in between. Yeah.
So, like being able to be okay with that idea
Yeah.
is then like where you're giving up control over
Yeah.
it. So, yeah, I mean, trust really is only, at least for me, is really only required when more than just you, well, and even your trust in yourself, when you're trying to achieve something or get access to something. Like, you know, trusting yourself to approve a PR. Like, are you really sure that you spent like all your focus on this thing, or did you give your full attention on it? Are at that point when you click that button, you're hopefully trusting that you did everything that you could have to review and say, from everything that I'm capable of, this looks of okay quality. That I'm okay with saying it's good.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah, trust is something you don't really have to think about until it's
that's true.
not
until
there.
It's like broken, and then and then you realize.
And like, I mean, there's some things like having access to databases and whatnot.
Oh well, yeah.
Like there's regardless of how much somebody trusts you, there's certain processes put in place to say, like, regardless of how much we trust you, like, problems can't happen if you don't have access.
Yes. I would not trust myself with access to a prod DB.
It's like,
no.
It's like those kinds of things. It's trust doesn't have to really play a role to not give somebody something.
Right.
But it's once you start talking about whether or not they should have that is then where you have to assess how much trust you have in the capabilities of the individual.
Cool.
Yeah. I don't typically think about it.
Yeah, I don't know why that came up, but
because it's working.
It's just working. Things are working.
Well,
You're
I mean,
okay.
I think what brought it up is the idea of like moving to different teams.
Oh yeah.
So like when you move to a different team, like how does that all start?
Yes.
But for me, being here, like it's not really even something I had to think about because things just worked. So it never played a role. I never felt like I wasn't trusted.
Yeah.
And I think that's just partly because everybody is. I think the first thing people are assuming is that what you're doing is the right thing. So,
right.
Why does there even need to be an issue of trust if
yes, so there's the
you're
assumption
doing the right thing?
that if you made it through all of the process to get into this place and are on this team, then you know what you're doing and you're really good at what you do, and so
at that
we're gonna let you do your thing.
They trust their own assumptions,
right?
That we think that you're going to do the right thing. So
So we'll
until you don't do the right thing,
keep
doing what you do.
It for sure.
Yeah.
It makes life easier for you too.
To start off
to a certain extent, because there's like the whole pessimistic view of any new code that's put in front of you.
Right.
But that's a different kind. That's not like a trust. You're not going to trust someone so much that you don't have to review their code or test their feature. That's a different level of thing.
Or you're trusting that the processes that you have put in place will stop issues from going out.
Oh, for sure.
Which is why we have each of those checkpoints.
Yes. Yeah, I'm just saying there shouldn't ever be such a high level of trust that you can just not show up to work.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And expect a feature to go out and be perfect.
I mean, ideally that would be the goal, at least in QA, is eventually to get to the point where, regardless of if you're there or not, everybody has the tools they need. It may not get out as fast because you don't then have somebody dedicated to that role.
Right.
But the end goal of somebody in QA should purely be on education of quality and then leading that into, or educating yourself on quality, leading into the educating others on quality, and building up those habits to pursue that.
Yeah.
So like when you're not there, those habits are still ingrained for everybody to do what they know to do to get a feature out that is of whatever accepted quality is.
So maybe that leads into this thing, and we talked about it a little bit, but maybe not specifically with this viewpoint. Is can you do that job so well? Like the education part and the setting up processes part, can you do that so well that you make yourself redundant? Could that be like the goal of someone on a squad, is to make everyone so good at testing and understanding and having that quality first, and understanding all of the levels of testing and how to do it, that you're not necessary? Or is there always some sort of presence needed?
I'm not sure. I mean, humans are...
That's like touching fire, answering that question, maybe.
No, I mean, it's a good question. Because, like, if your end goal is to educate and provide that habit building experience to where they know what to do, I think that would be true if things never changed. But due to the fact that we're in an environment that is always changing, where new problems arise that you can't account for, because the moment you account for that, there's a number of other different ways that thing could change and twist that you may not have accounted for. So I don't think there is ever a point where you should like teach your way out of a job. I would say that should be like your goal always, is to educate others to or educate yourself out of a job, but due to the fact that the job is always changing, that you never reach that point.
Okay.
So you're always kind of like chasing that. I need to make sure everybody, has that habit and that information to make the right decisions, and get to that point of like they don't need me anymore.
Right.
Kind of like the Mary Poppins. Like,
yeah.
Educating people and building up good behaviors to then say, all right, you're
ready to go.
You've got all the tools you need. See you later.
Yeah.
But it's like really like the so much is changing, especially in like software and tech and all of that it's like
there's new technical risks coming in all the time that you need to
things are
keep
changing,
abreast of.
evolving, growing, like new processes, new tools, new whatever. Like each of those things kind of keep you in that role.
Yep.
Because you are supposed to be like that subject matter expert of like, this new thing is introduced, now we need to plan around that thing. There are still going to be like some of the like basics that you've instilled that can carry throughout.
Yeah.
But once you get like deeper into like the specifics is where you still have I don't know, worth. Whatever word you want to use.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, if there's definitely roles that I've been in where due to the fact that like you were doing part of it was like you were doing a job that others didn't want to do.
That's, I think, still the case.
Well, sure.
In a lot of places, if
Oh,
not
yeah.
all the places.
Yeah. But if you're, that kind of environment breeds some bad behaviors.
Yep.
With like, because you're doing something that others don't want to do, either that might provide like I have job security, so I'm the only one that can do this.
Mm-hmm.
But it also might breed a behavior of like, I'm the only one that can do this, so I don't want to like share out my secrets of like what I do and how I do it.
Yeah.
So that you then do become a gatekeeper of that last check to say like, okay, now we're good because I said that we're good.
That's very unhealthy.
Yeah.
And I think, no one likes to have that.
Well, people like to have it.
Well, I mean, going left, like into like developers don't like that. I'm sure.
Right.
I mean, they don't want to have like wait for the end for a yay or nay.
Yeah. It definitely
and that becomes
down.
combative instead of collaborative.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's not a good thing to have.
Mm-hmm.
But some people like having that because it makes them then feel more important to the process instead of being able to all own the environment and the processes and all of that, like everybody carrying the load. It's like you take out your last piece of the key that only you can turn that lock or turn the key in the lock and like open the gates.
I find that also really short-sighted because if you fail to educate and teach people how to approach testing and have that mindset as they're building things, then that's going to make your life harder, right? Because you're going to basically stop validating features and value, and you're just going to be hunting for bugs, right? So
definitely rules that I've been in.
And it also, if you just own that thing as something that no one else wants to do, it also, I think the other bad thing is it becomes less valuable. Like your time and what you do becomes less valuable across the organization. It's like, that's not, let them do that thing. And then they stop thinking about what that thing is, and it's just some sort of task that someone does at the end,
which is where it's gone. Like, that's kind of the progression of a lot of companies, is that's where it lives at, is the thing we don't have to think about because somebody else does it for us.
Exactly. Those people, and we can farm that thing out. That's one of the other things that happens in big organizations.
If you don't think it's more than just checking a list of things, it's like, well, lists, like, just get a bunch of eyes on that list and then it's done.
Click around. Check off the list for the auditors, and we're good to go.
We logged X many hours of people checking that list, so we're good to go. It's definitely maybe where I came from.
Yeah, that's no good. So yeah, that's the trick. To find, like, educate, teach people, and get them all really good at testing, having that focus on what we're delivering, like quality.
Yeah.
Always thinking in that certain way, so that you can still work on those things if you enjoy them. You could build tests at whatever level.
Sure.
And do whatever level of exploratory testing, and still own that. But if you can get developers focused on that also, then the stuff that they put in your lap to do is going to be a lot cleaner. So you're going to be more efficient. There's going to be less risk at the end of the day. And you can take a week off or 2 weeks off and kind of know, like, all right, I'm going to be gone. I'll just do what you're doing. And then spend a little bit more time doing what I typically do. And then you don't have to get people covering you and doing 2 jobs for a week. Yeah.
I think that kind of brings up another topic of when does that happen? When do you go from, or when do you know that your team has gotten to that point of they're able to do this without me worrying about it? I mean, there is like a gut feeling of, like, things have been going good.
Yeah.
So now
it's
a good time.
If you get to a point where the things that you're ending up validating are of good quality. If you end up just getting into a role where you're just, like, validating instead of picking apart and testing, you start to see the quality of the features that are dropped for you to test if you're in that role. There's also, you start to see the conversations with developers changing. And those are, you start having more discussions about the feature and, like, what they've been covering test-wise and how they approached building what they were building and how and what the risks are. Then you know that they actually thought about, okay, these are the risks of this feature. This is how I covered those risks on my own, and I know enough to tell you about what's left. Like, these are some risks that this is where we may have some technical risk because of how we're integrating with the rest of the system. So when the conversations turn into that, then you know people are thinking about how they're building things and basing that on risk. I think that, and that's as far as what I've seen. It's not just like from 1 to 10, like 1 on the scale is like we're just dropping features over the wall. Okay, this is ready for testing. Do whatever you do and tell me if there's any bugs. Right? And then as you progress, you finally get to that point where you're having a conversation. And even before developers start building what they're going to build, there's that you're involved with those conversations, those implementation details, and as part of those implementation details is this: how easy is this to test?
Right.
and then those conversations after, like I said, about here's your risks, this is what we did, here's what I've covered, here's what I can't cover, and here's where I think you should spend some time testing. So. Have you seen, how about you? Have you seen examples of like people, individuals, or like in different companies, like how that process has matured, or the...
I would say everywhere except here has been very much a handoff.
Yeah.
Here, especially on my team, like there has definitely been I have been able to notice like people thinking differently.
Yeah.
As they're talking through their features that they're going to develop. That's I think part of it really starts to show when like somebody brings up, oh, well that touches that file, so like what else uses that file so that we know. Like those kinds of things are like you hear that, you're like, all right, there's some thoughts going on here.
Yeah.
Because then I like that, especially when, I would say even more so when those little things are brought up.
Yep.
And the conversation can dig into that and move beyond just like a one-off mention of something.
Yeah.
Like when it's actually like followed up, like that's where that makes me think that people are starting to think about things a little differently, or think of overall quality of something more than just like, I've been given a thing to make, I made the thing.
You tested. Yeah.
But yeah, I would say that's kind of like the first thing that I started hearing of like, I think people are starting to think about more than just make the thing. So
Yes,
that was,
make the thing well.
Yeah, and then I think beyond that is then they told me to make the thing. As a user, will that thing actually do what I want it to do? Like, is that what's going to like provide value to me? And it's like that kind of chain of thought is like my hope.
Yes.
Is that, and that may or may not be rest on me to help get people thinking about it. But seeing that like progression of thought is like interesting. It's like watching a child grow up. Little bit by little bit, you're like, I think they're starting to get this.
Yep, exactly.
So it's like those moments of clarity of like, they go from making noises to saying words to saying sentences to asking for money.
Oh God, that's
Actually, my son doesn't ask for money.
Yeah, I'm
still too young.
I've gotten through all of them. Yep.
But yeah, like seeing those moments of like aha.
Yeah.
And like that's where you're like, I think we're gonna be okay. Things are going well.
They're asking the right questions.
Asking
and using the right language.
I think that's why I typically wait to ask my questions, is to see where conversations go.
Oh, that's interesting.
So instead of like I may or may not be like the first one to know like, oh well, I should like ask about, you know, that thing that doesn't look right, or like that takes effort from me to like, that's kind of the whole like stepping back and
Yep.
like letting other people
Yep. Oh yeah, I
lead
like
the
that.
way of like,
Yeah.
you know, I don't want to be the only one ever asking about quality related things,
Mm-hmm.
because if that goes into the, you know, if I'm the only one ever doing it, then I'm the only one that's going to be thought of the only person who's
Yep.
going to be doing that.
Yeah, you'll set that expectation.
Right. So
You
it's
know,
like,
people step in.
yeah, and that goes to like, you know, if I'm the only one ever validating things, I'm going to be the only one ever validating things, because it's not typically something somebody's going to like go out of their way and do unless they really care about the overall process and
Yeah.
like, I want this to be the best, so, you know, I'm going to do everything I can to take whatever pieces and parts that I need to make this the best that it can be.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, stepping back and being able to just like see where questions go,
Yeah.
and ask mine if anything I feel is left over. I mean, I'm not perfect. I don't think of everything, but if I at least let other people think of things first, then it's
Yeah.
like, that's a win for them and a win for me.
Yep.
So, yeah,
Nice.
it's 4:30.
It's 4:30.
You got,
That was a good conversation, I think.
yeah, more natural.
Yes.
Less question answer.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna stop this.
All right.